Okay, okay, good Tavach, Veilige Vach. Um, I just read this morning how Reb Simchana got a letter from her husband, Rabbi Yitzchak, while he was incarcerated, and the letter said that please make the home to be in a celebratory atmosphere. It should all be clean and prepared and sparkling in honor of the Yontiv of the 19th of Kislev. The 19th of Kislev is coming, the anniversary of the Alter Rebbe's liberation from prison. Rabbi Zimchana said, and please, Rabbi Levitzin in the letter to his wife, that she should make sure that their home is in a festive atmosphere on that day. I was thinking about the various preparations that people make in honor of the upcoming anniversary of the previous Rebbe's passing, the day that the Rebbe became Rebbe, to clean house to get in touch with where we need to be. So I wanted to begin with sharing something, as I was asked to share what I shared this morning about a dream that Rabbi Wolf from Chicago's father had in the year uh, between the previous Rebbe's passing and the day that the Rebbe officially accepted to become Rebbe. During that year, many people made overtures of various natures asking the Rebbe to agree to become the shepherd of the Jewish people, of Chabad. And among other things, one recurring thing that the Rebbe was saying was that he didn't have a sign from the previous Rebbe. But one chassid shared a dream that he had with the Rebbe, and that seemed to be accepted by the Rebbe. What was his dream? Rabbi Wolf's father had the following dream. It was about this week's upcoming Torah portion. The Torah portion talks about how the Jewish people were at the brink of the Reed Sea, and they're all crying out to Hashem. As the Talmud says, that there were four groups. One group said to go back to Egypt. One group said to go into battle. One group said to daven, want to pray, and one group said to just commit suicide and to go into water. And Moshe Rabbeinu turns to Hashem, and Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, he says to Moses, Ma titzekalai, why are you crying out to me? Speak to the Jewish people, and they should travel forward. That's what they did. They traveled forward, and Nachshon and Aminadav, he walked into, not to commit suicide, he walked into the Yam Suf to travel forward towards Mount Sinai, not to reckon with the obstacle in front of him. He was headed towards Mount Sinai. He knew this is where Hashem wanted him to go, and therefore it doesn't matter that there's a sea in front of him. He's going to go where Hashem wants him to go. And miraculously, he went on this mission towards Mount Sinai, as Hashem instructed, travel forward, and the sea split. So this chassid dreamed that the Rebbe had a conversation with the previous Rebbe with the same language of that verse. The previous Rebbe said to the Rebbe, Ma titzekalai, why are you crying to me? Dabra b'nei Yisrael, say Chassidus to the Jewish people, share Chassidus, v'yiso, and travel forward towards Mashiach. Dabra b'nei Yisrael, say Chassidus, v'yiso, and you'll travel forward towards Mashiach. That's what the previous Rebbe said to the Rebbe in the dream. Dabra b'nei Yisrael, say Chassidus, share Chassidus, and that will have an impact. So, on that note, my grandmother, Zain Gesund, was once talking in front of Rabbi Simchana, and she mentioned the following teaching. It says in Sefer Yashar of Rabbeinu Tam, words that come from the heart enter the heart. So she said, words that come from the Rebbe, who Maimonides writes that the king of the Jewish people is called the heart of the Jewish people. So words that come from the Rebbe, the heart of the Jewish people, have the power to enter the heart of every single Jew. That's what she shared. And in a similar way, Reb Hillel Parcher was sent by the Tzemach Tzedek to speak to various settlements of Jews who were working in agriculture in various tracts of land in Tsarist Russia, as the Rebbe's of Chabad arranged that many tracts of land should be used for agriculture, and the government really appreciated it, and the Tsar gave the Mittler Rebbe and the family of the Rebbe the title, a citizen honor for generations. Interesting postscript to the story that the previous Rebbe, when he was being interrogated, the interrogator asked the previous Rebbe, "What is your title?" My title is a citizen honor for generations. Now the Bolsheviks did away with all the whatever was happening in the time of the Tsar was deleted from history by the Bolsheviks, but they didn't really appreciate that response. Anyways, so just as my grandmother said that teaching, Reb Simchana, afterwards, she said she really loved it. She said, "You spoke like an elder chassid, you spoke like an older chassid," and she really, really appreciated it. And so this Abila Parcher, he in time at Tzemach Tzedek, he would travel around and he would try to inspire these Jews who living in these remote regions. And he didn't really like this this task because it took away a lot from his own personal endeavor to learn and to pray. And he came to Tzemach Tzedek. Rabbi Hillel Parcher mentioned that it was worth so much just to see the luminous face of Tzemach Tzedek and the light in his response, what he said to him. What did Tzemach Tzedek respond? Tzemach Tzedek responded, he told Tzemach Tzedek that he has no time. And he can't do this, it sticks up, it's hard. Tzemach Tzedek responded in the language of the Talmud, we are day workers. Day workers literally means, in the language of the Talmud, we work during the day, daytime. But the Tzemach Tzedek said, our job is to create light. And he said that the way to create light is by the teachings of Chassidus. The teachings of Chassidus are a or atzmi, are a light that comes from the essence. And these teachings were given to us through the sacrifice of our grandparents. That's what the Tzemach Tzedek said. So the previous Rebbe said, from this we learn 6 things. Number 1, we learn that we have to give of ourselves for the benefit of others. We can't just do things for ourselves. We have to give away our own comforts to benefit others. Number 2, we know what is our responsibility to others. Our responsibility to others is to give light. Number 3, we learn that the way to give light is through teaching Chassidus. Number 4, we learn that the only way to give light is through Chassidus. Not only is Chassidus also give light, but the only way to give light is through Chassidus, the teachings of Chassidus. And number 5, we learn that the teachings of Chassidus are called a atzmi, a light of the essence. What's the meaning of a light of the essence? So the previous Rebbe explained, you have light that is produced from a flintstone versus light that's produced from a piece of wood. With a piece of wood, if it's submerged in water, so then it loses a potential, at least temporarily, to produce fire, to produce light. But a flintstone, even if it's submerged in water for 1,000 years, if you take it out of the water and you strike it, immediately it produces a flame. So the previous Rebbe said that we learned from what the Tzemach Tzedek told the Hillel Parcher, that the teachings of Chassidus are a light that can never be extinguished. They're a light of the essence. They're a light that's independent on anything else. They're a light that comes from Hashem's essence, and therefore it doesn't need anything else. It itself has this potency of illuminating and giving warmth. And therefore, even if the previous Rebbe said, there are people which are in treacherous water spiritually. People are not in a good, healthy place. And yet, the light of the teachings of Chassidus have the power to reach them. And the reason we have these teachings, the fire is still burning, is because of the sacrifice of our Rebbes. So, what we're learning from these stories is that the words that come from the tzaddik, from the Rebbe, are coming from sacrifice. It's not just like, the Rebbe is just speaking. He's talking from the essence of his soul. And that's why the fire is still burning. That's why we're able to speak to Jewish people and to give them and to inspire them. It actually was today in the 3rd of Shvat. I remember 1992 when I was studying in the yeshiva here in Los Angeles in Elchanan, listening by hookup to the Rebbe speaking. And Rebbe was speaking about how it was the 3rd of Shvat. Rebbe was speaking, and his voice was cracking, talking about the previous Rebbe. Rebbe was in such pain, recalling what had happened 4 decades before. That was talking about how the previous Rebbe, his doctor, asked the previous Rebbe a question. The question was that the previous Rebbe, he teaches so much Torah with his mouth, and yet because of his medical condition, he wasn't able to speak, and it was hard, difficult for him to speak. And so the doctor asked the previous Rebbe, how could it be that Hashem took away from you the ability to speak when that's you're commanded and entrusted by Hashem with this mission of sharing the words of Chassidus and Torah? How can you not be able to speak? That's what the doctor said. And the Rebbe repeated this, and he said that just like by Moshe Rabbeinu, by Moses, the Torah says that Aaron was the one who was meant to replace Moshe Rabbeinu's ability to speak. He was meant to talk on his behalf. So too, all of us are meant to be the mouthpiece of the previous Rebbe. We're meant to share his words. We're supposed to share his words and realize the potency, the power of these words, because these words are coming from the holy heart of the previous Rebbe, and therefore they have the power to impact every single Jew. So this is a very, very powerful idea to think about as we approach the anniversary of the previous Rebbe's passing and the day that our Rebbe became Rebbe. So on that note, I want to share with you a few stories that highlight the connection of a chassid and the Rebbe, and the love of the Rebbe to a chassid. I think I'll begin with the past and then work up to the present. When the Rebbe visited France in 1947, it was 3 years before the previous Rebbe's passing, and there were many Hasidim that wanted to be able to leave France and come to New York and see the Rebbe. They had their own challenges. They're living in France after the war. And when the Rebbe visited France, they asked the Rebbe if the Rebbe could please Ma'ir Rachamim, could he please arouse the previous Rebbe's mercy on them, so that he should pray for them. And that's the language that they used. This is the way Rebbe Halpern shared the story. There are different small variations of this amazing story. The previous Rebbe, said the Rebbe, doesn't need to be reminded about your plight. And Rebbe shared the following thing. If you recall, a few weeks ago, I was sharing about the various groups of Hasidim who had managed to leave Russia to Poland after the war with forged passports. Because Russia allowed, after the war, anyone with a Polish passport to return to Poland, as many people were displaced, so many Hasidim took advantage of this opportunity and forged Polish passports to allow them to leave. But there were many instances where the forged passports were discovered. If you recall, I shared then how, on one occasion, Mendel Futafas, legendary Chabad Chassid, was with the other Hasidim trying to figure out what to do, and they got a telegram from the previous Rebbe. The telegram said they should look in a certain verse in Bamidbar. Which verse? The verse said that Aaron HaKohen, that Aaron went up on the mountain called Hor HaHar, and he passed away. And Mendel understood the previous Rebbe was saying that he's going to give his life in order to rescue these Hasidim in this plight, in this difficult situation where they can't go back to Russia, they can't get into Poland, and they successfully managed to get to Poland afterwards. So the previous Rebbe, because of his health condition, he would need an injection every morning at 7 o'clock. This is the version also that Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg shared of this story. He said that the previous Rebbe was supposed to have an injection every day. It's exactly the same time. because of his various health ailments. And when the nurse came in one day, usually he would be completely awake and ready for the injection, but this time he was turned away, and it was clear that he was in a different world. And so they called our Rebbe to come to the room, and the Rebbe came in, and he heard the previous Rebbe saying to himself, words of this coming Torah portion, Oz Yasher Moshe. Oz Yasher Moshe is a song of the sea that Jewish people sang to Hashem after they crossed the Red Sea. So the previous Rebbe was repeating those words, Oz Yasher Moshe, and it was at that moment that the Hasidim on the train were able to leave Russia and come into Poland. And so the previous Rebbe was somehow, by him saying this song of the sea, the Rebbe was telling these Hasidim in France, that they don't have to worry if the Rebbe is thinking about them, if he's conscious about them, even though he was thousands of miles away. But he was with them in their journey from Poland, from Russia to Poland, under the greatest danger, and he is singing the song of the sea, and this is how he was able to. Obviously, this is something that a Rebbe does. We don't understand the ways of a Rebbe, but the previous Rebbe singing the song of Az Yasher to himself over and over again, until the Rebbe said he heard the previous Rebbe say Baruch Hashem, and at that moment, that's when they were Baruch Hashem able to leave Russia to Poland. So the Rebbe was telling them that you don't need me to tell the previous Rebbe anything. He's with you. Now, I just want to remark, now that I said that, I need to remark and say that it's nevertheless customary to always write to the Rebbe, even though the tzaddikim are aware of things without us writing to them. But as the Rebbe said so many times, how important it is to send letters to the Rebbe, especially as we're approaching the 10th of Shvat, and the verse the previous Rebbe's passing. It's customary the day before, and it's on Shabbos next week, to write a request for a blessing on the Friday before Yud Shvat, after morning prayers, and to include a request for blessing for every member of your family, and to give tzedakah to the Rebbe's institutions. That's the customary this coming Friday, and not just this coming Friday, but all the time. It's good to write the Rebbe, and as Rebbe even once said, that Hashem wants the Jewish people to be connected to each other. And if we don't connect to each other for good reasons, then Hashem, God forbid, makes other reasons to connect. So by writing to the Rebbe good news, that precludes the heavenly need to bring us together and connect with the Rebbe in other ways. To be, as the previous Rebbe lamented, and not just the previous Rebbe, all the Rebbes lamented about certain kinds of Chassidim were called Tsaras Chassidim. Chassidim will only surface when they're in trouble. So we shouldn't be like that. We should connect and write and share good news with the Rebbe, and that not only when we're in trouble, not only when we're stuck. We shouldn't be a tsaras chassid. A chassid only arrives when he has a problem. So the famous emissary of the Rebbe in Houston, Rabbi Shimon Lazaroff, may he live and be well, he once had a very serious medical condition. Until today, he doesn't want to share what the condition was. But because of this serious medical condition, he had to go to New York, to Manhattan, to speak to someone there. And when he's speaking to this guy in Manhattan, the guy tells Rabbi Lazaroff, tell me, did you consult the Rebbe about this? And Rabbi Lazaroff said, I did ask the Rebbe didn't respond. So this guy, apparently he wasn't such a chassid of the Rebbe, so he's like, does the Rebbe know you? Like, why wouldn't he respond to you? It's such a serious issue. Why wouldn't he respond? Rabbi Lazaroff was like, of course he knows me. I'm his emissary in Houston. But there was a little tingling doubt in his mind, like, why didn't the Rebbe answer me? This is like a really serious thing, and I'm in real serious trouble here. Why isn't the Rebbe responding to me? That doubt bothered him. Anyways, he's in Manhattan, and he leaves Manhattan to go to Crown Heights to the Rebbe's Farbrengen. He comes to the Rebbe's Farbrengen, and the Rebbe called him out in the middle of the Farbrengen. The Rebbe called him, and the Rebbe said to him, throw away all the negativity, Be besimchu tu livav. You need to be with joy and gladness of heart. It was clear. The Rebbe called him out of the thousands of people that were gathered there. That was calling him out and telling him, like, don't think I don't think about you. Throw away all the negative thoughts. Throw away the marashchera. You need to be with simchu to livav, the joy and gladness of heart. That message was so powerful to him. And the very next day, the Rebbe gave him a very clear instructions about everything he needs to do for this medical condition. And thank God he is still serving as Rebbe's emissary in Houston. There's a family in South Africa, the Better family. Doreen and Rabbi Better, Olav Shalom, were serving in a Jewish community in South Africa, and their son, Shragi, had this issue that he wasn't developing his motor skills. So other children his age were already running around, he wasn't even crawling. So although they weren't from a Hasidic family, but they decided they want to write a letter to the Rebbe. And so they wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and 3 weeks after they wrote a letter to the Rebbe, there's a knock on the door, and the postman is there, and he has a letter from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said in the letter that he will relay their request for a blessing at the Ohel, at the resting place of the previous Rebbe. And the Rebbe concluded the letter and wrote in his handwriting with a blessing for good news, he should merit to walk in the ways of God. Right? They're writing to the Rebbe, his motor skills aren't developing, he can't even crawl. So I wrote to them, he should merit to go in the ways of God. At that very moment, Mrs. Doreen Better said she lifted up her eyes and she felt this tingling, this sensation in her whole body. She saw Shragi in front of her with a sweet smile on his face, and he's starting to walk towards her without any support. She broke out crying, and she opened up her hands, and Shragi came into her hands, and you can imagine her happiness. And at that very moment, the letter came to the Rebbe. In that moment, Shragi gets up, and he walks towards her. So I wanted to share one more story. This story is printed in the Kfar Chabad magazine. As I said, I'm going in order from the past to the present. This story actually took place about a month ago. There is a Solomon family, not at all from any connection to Hasidic roots, but they tried various ways to receive a blessing from God for children. And they tried all kinds of different kinds of treatments. Among them, they tried some kind of subconscious treatment. And during this treatment, Mrs. Solomon had a dream. In the dream, she sees the Rebbe and she sees another woman. And in the dream, she doesn't know who the other woman is. She knows who the Rebbe is. She recognizes the Rebbe from pictures. And the woman told her that she and the Rebbe are davening that she should merit to have a child. And then the woman said to her, go now and do a test, and you'll see that you're already pregnant. And the woman added, you should have a child, you'll have a girl, and you should name the girl Chana. That's what she dreamed. She woke up from the dream, and she didn't know who is this Chana, and who is this Rebbetzin that came into her in the dream. And she asked her husband to search on the internet, maybe could find out if people connected to the Rebbe. And he showed his wife a picture of Rebbetzin Chaim Lushka. The wife said that wasn't in her dream, until her husband found a picture of Rebbetzin Chana. And she said, yes, it's exactly who I dreamed about. Her name is Rebbetzin Chana. She never saw her in her life. and she and her husband, they're not externally, they didn't have any connection at all with with the Rebbe Tzimchana, and they're friends also. They don't have any Chabad friends. And Baruch Hashem, she gave birth to a girl, and of course she named her Chana. And this past the 19th of Kislev, she had forgotten. Basically, long story short, they had a raffle in this Chabad event in Israel, where I'll tell you which city it was. 1 second, it was in the Chabad Center of Rabbi. Shikun Chabad in Lud. In Shikun Chabad in Lud, they made this event, and they made a raffle. They announced they're making a raffle for a coin that the Rebbe had distributed. And Mrs. Salman, because of her dream, she really wanted to connect with this. And Baruch Hashem, she won the raffle. And the bottom line is, my friends, we all won the raffle because we all connected with the Rebbe. And tonight's the yard to the Baba Sali. Just to show one thing about the Baba Sali. The Baba Sali would always encourage people with the blessings, and by giving people arak. That was the liquor of choice of the Baba Sali, and he would give blessings to people, and he would pour them arak. But one of the amazing things about the arak of the Baba Sali is that he would pour and pour and pour and pour, and he would cover it because it wouldn't finish. It was a miracle. He would pour from the arak, and it wouldn't finish. And just watching a video tonight, someone was sharing that the Baba Sali was once distributing the arak without a cover. There's no cover, and you could and it kept on refilling because he saw it with his eyes. The Baba Sali is pouring and pouring and pouring, and the bottle is not emptying. This is something we have to realize. Some people think V'tamar Hashem, and some people think that the oil of the light of the Baal Shem Tov, it's gone, Chas v'shalom. But just like in the story of the Baba Sali, he keeps on pouring and pouring, and it's not stopping. So too we see the impact of the Baal Shem Tov and Mzitcha Magid and the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe and Tzemach Tzedek, the Marash, the Rashab, and the Frierdiker Rebbe and our Rebbe, and it's growing and growing and growing in every part of the world. And we're going to see the splitting of the Reed Sea, the revelation of godliness of Hashem in the world, the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. We should see this happen immediately. We should celebrate Yud Shvat with the Rebbe and the previous Rebbe in Shalayim HaKadosh, Mashiach Tzidkenu. Good Vach Rabbeinu, good Vach Rabarach, good Vach Rababa, good Vach Menchayel, good Vach